Hello out there, we're on the air here in Glendale Cemetery in Etobicoke, Ontario. On today's Hockey Heroes of History, we are visiting two-time Stanley Cup champion Barry Ashbee, as well as five-time Stanley Cup champion, Vezina Trophy winner, and Hockey Hall of Famer, Turk Broda. Okay, so first up we've got Barry Ashbee over here, who you can tell by his stone played for the Philadelphia Flyers. There he is. Played for the Flyers from 1970 to 1974 during the Broad Street Bullies era and became one of their most reliable defensemen. During the 74 playoffs, Barry Ashbee took a slap shot to the right eye, rendering his vision nearly blind and forcing him into an early retirement. The Flyers would go on to win the Stanley Cup without Ashbee in the finals, but he was still able to get his name on the Stanley Cup. The next season, the Flyers would offer to bring Ashbee back, this time as an assistant coach, which Ashbee was reluctant to accept at first, seeing it as a sort of sympathy, but he would ultimately accept, coaching players that he had just a few months prior called teammates. The Flyers would go on to repeat as Stanley Cup champions, giving Ashbee his second Stanley Cup. Unfortunately, 2 years later, Ashbee would be diagnosed with leukemia and pass away a month later in 1977. He was just 37 years old. However, Ashbee's legacy lives on with the Barry Ashbee Trophy, awarded each season by the Philadelphia Flyers to the team's best defenseman. Okay, now on to Turk Broda, who spent his entire 14-season career with the Toronto Maple Leafs as a goaltender and is featured on their Legends Row, so a little taste of what's to come. And he's buried right over here. There he is, Turk Broda. Broda debuted with the Leafs in 1936, already being a Memorial Cup and Calder Cup champion, and within 5 years was already the league's top goaltender, winning a Vezina in 1941 and the Stanley Cup in 1942. But despite the momentum, Broda took a 3-year hiatus to serve in the Second World War, returning in 1946 to a Stanley Cup defending Toronto Maple Leafs team. Broda and the Leafs would miss the playoffs, but then win the 47, 48, 49, and then 51 Stanley Cup, all while being backstopped by Broda, who won his second Vezina in 1948. Broda would retire after the 51 Stanley Cup and be inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1967. Broda's number 1 was honored and now retired by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and is considered one of the greatest players in the history of the NHL. Broda passed away in 1972 at the age of 58. But why is Turk Broda when his name is Walter? Oops. Well, Turk came from turkey egg, is what his friends used to call him in school to comment on the amount of freckles he had, and turkey egg became Turk. And that's what stuck, even till his playing days. So, Turk Broda. Barry Ashbee and Turk Broda, today's Hockey Heroes of History.